The high school, it's a disaster, and they won't tell you that.
How cold does it have to get before they cancel school? His answer to me, when somebody suffers bodily harm.
We all have a say in it because it affects all of our pockets, basically. We all pay taxes, we all contribute to the city, so we all should have a voice.
From a business perspective, it makes sense to make a new school than to renovate.
Have you seen Lowell High as of late, buddy?
And
for downtown, but they are delighted.
yeah, this is decades and decades of political corruption.
One way or another, it's going to be like a bomb.
WBZ's David Robichaux is live in Lowell tonight. Roby?
Paula, the city manager told me he woke up to a text message this morning informing him that the Board of Health had taken a surprise vote last night to shut down Lowell High for safety reasons. But the city manager says he's vowing to keep the school open because the board doesn't have the authority to make that call.
Based upon what we see here, we made a recommendation to shut the place down.
Board of Health member Dr. John Donovan showed us some of the safety violations at Lowell High from an inspection report.
Here's the big one, too, as far as the elevated pedestrian walkway. There's a broken conduit, pinching wires, and water entering.
Wires exposed to water in a walkway kids use to go between buildings. Inspectors also noted gymnasium walls ripped apart, exposing insulation.
There'll be days I walk through the tunnel and there's like a piece gone. Like there's like holes in the tunnels. There's like when it rains, leakage everywhere.
Leakage in the tunnel.
Ceilings broken, cracked. Heater doesn't work. AC doesn't work. It's really dirty. The water fountains are disgusting. The water is yellow, like it's so gross. What else?
No, I think you covered.
Rats.
The rats.
There's rats.
These are rats. These are rats that run across the classroom while the kids are sitting there learning. These are rats. I was told by a parent of a student that stepped on one. Just last week, there was a boys' bathroom with 8 sinks. None of them were working. In the past month, when the weather started getting cold, the kids were in classrooms that were anywhere from 39 to 50 degrees, where the labor board mandates that 66 to 68 is the minimum.
I've been there 5 years now, and what I see on a daily basis is that the school people are so used to working under these conditions, and I was kind of new to be around. I'm like, I can't believe people work in a high school under these conditions. But I think it just becomes such everyday routine that it's accepted. It's accepted when the fire alarms don't work. It's accepted when the handicap lift doesn't work. It's accepted when the elevators don't work, when the heat doesn't work, when the roof leaks in the gym and you have to cancel a basketball game, when you have Central Catholic and Lowell High School, the biggest crowd of the season, and they had to refund the people's money.
To understand Lowell High, it's really, I think, 4 separate buildings, 3 of which are connected together. Maybe 5 years ago, the Lowell School Committee conducted a study on needs for schools. And at the time, the state would only fund a single project. They instead decided to, or proposed to renovate the Lowell High School. And then over time, there is a process that the state requires you to follow. Part of that process is to identify a renovation site and a new site for new construction. They studied various sites and they came up with 5 options. 4 involved the current downtown high school, and 1 was to build entirely new on the grounds of Cawley Stadium.
The bottom line, we do need a new high school for the students. It's decrepit, it's falling apart. There's no doubt that there needs to be a new one. And can they restore the old one? That's the big debate, versus a new site. And then the whole issue of, which one's better? Is it better for the politicians, which is what we hear, or have we heard from the students? Have we heard from the kids? What do the kids want? I haven't heard from any kids. I've only heard from the adults and grown-ups involved in the politics of the city. I'd really like to sit down with a group of 200 kids and say, where would you like your high school?
I think early on there were community meetings, neighborhood meetings that really weren't very well attended. It didn't seem like there was a great deal of interest. And then these two distinct groups emerged, one favoring Cawley and the other one favoring keeping it downtown. And they engaged a lot of people who have been active in the political process, but I think also a lot of people who have not. And I think both sides brought a great deal of passion to the debate.
When I first heard about the high school being moved out and the fact that we might be building a new high school, the allure, the idea of building the new high school sounded really good. But once I heard about the logistics regarding, moving it over there, what it meant, because I knew busing was going to be a huge issue because the high school had never provided busing for any of the students. But as far as keeping the high school downtown, there's a lot of culture in the downtown area. It definitely teaches the kids some kind of independence. It teaches them about their city.
I just think it's the better option for the kids to open up a new state-of-the-art campus where there is room to have everything that the kids could ever want offset from the downtown. I don't know if you guys have walked around downtown during the day, but people like to post pictures of homeless people throwing up outside the school, broken bottles, needles, things like that. It's not a good location for the kids to have to go to school, walk to on a daily basis. And then I also see that downtown site as a potential great area for further economic development. Restaurants come in, restaurants go out. We're not drawing people down there. And I think there needs to be a change in direction in order to help that process out.
But it's the whole process of trying to restore and renovate something as big and old as that while you still have students attending the school there. So we're talking trailers and module units. I don't think that's going to work on a high school level. There's too many students there.
Because it's 2017. Lowell High it's not caught up. And everything's online now. With the school being at Cawley, we'd be able to have laptops. We could build things in the school that other schools don't have that would definitely help the students.
I found out that people who are pro Cawley are mostly white people, so that kind of makes a little division.
I mean, downtown, it's been said a lot of times, downtown is equidistant from all parts of Lowell, Centerville, Pawtuckaville, Belvidere. And if I moved to Cawley, it would only be beneficial for Belvidere kids because they live right there and then they go right there. But then for the rest of Lowell, I don't think it's fair, transportation-wise.
Not everyone has transportation like that. Being in downtown, you have downtown the shuttles that come straight to Lowell High. You have kids that can walk straight to Lowell High. If it's in inner city Belvidere, kids are not going to walk from downtown to Belvidere.
I remember seeing a lot of the Cawley signs out in lawns, and I didn't see any Lowell High School downtown signs out, and I was like, let's go. We need, on Facebook, in community meetings, called up a few leaders, and I was like, let's go, we need to hustle. We're not gonna lose this high school while we're sleeping. We gathered, we had meetings, and then we did a walk. We did a walk from the Merrimack Pawtucket Boulevard all the way to Cawley. That was very interesting. We had about 50 people show up. We got a lot of backlash from Cawley supporters, but we did it.
The more that I read about, what they were saying, for downtown, I thought there were just way too many lies, and we've seen a lot of those on those when people got there, when they were running for city council, they would promote downright lies on their, these pieces of paper. And
I just assumed it was downtown. It was always going to be downtown. Nothing was ever going to change. And then as I went to local meetings, neighborhood meetings, city council meetings, and started to gather more information, and I realized that when they came out with these alternative sites, that this Cawley Stadium thing was remarkable. But again, it goes back to the education. I thought that's what this was all about. It wasn't about all the other things that are now coming, that keep coming up. It was supposed to be about educating, what is going to be the best environment for the children of Lowell High.
Please stand. We'll begin with the prayer. Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen.
When this community wakes up in the morning, it will be just as divided as it is right now, maybe more so. Sadly, I think this is attributable to the total lack of leadership on this issue. In fact, this will be the largest public high school construction project in the history of the state. However, the process has been marred by misinformation, lack of information, failure to discover or failure to disclose information. Therefore, I respectfully ask that this council consider a motion to put the question of the location of Lowell High School on the next citywide general election ballot.
This is not just a matter of which site is chosen. This is a racial matter. This is a matter of status. If you care about minorities, if you care about people of all backgrounds and situations, if you care about students and youth who do not grow up in an upper-class white section of Lowell, you will vote to keep Lowell High School downtown.
It's not equal now. Kids can't get to Lowell High now. No, they can't. When people come up here one after one and talk about equal opportunity education, we don't bus our kids to school. Are you kidding me? Build a brand new high school for our kids. We got to where we are through progress and through building and expanding and doing what is best for our kids.
I wanted to go to school in a place that I don't have to worry about construction and being exposed to asbestos. My grandmother, Jane Horn, died because she was exposed to asbestos, and I don't think it's fair to make us take any chances while at school. We are the future of Lowell and deserve the best learning environment.
The numerous pages of needed repairs which brought this action by the Board of Health should have never happened. Had the high school been properly maintained, this wouldn't have been an issue. Why didn't we question why there were so many repairs needed? The Board of Health was courageous. I found their actions heroic and beyond reproach. I explained that my concerns about asbestos exposure were valid and not the scare tactics they were purported to be. I watched as a downtown supporter on City Life said, well, it's not the bad asbestos in the high school. I'm sorry. Is there good asbestos?
The Cawley option has its attractions, but I think that those among you who support it have become so dazzled by its attractions that you have become blind to its negative aspects. You see your vote as a visionary decision. You think you're on the way to Tomorrowland. I think it is a damaging choice. I think you are putting us on the bus to Fantasyland, a place where transportation equity does not matter, new tax revenues are easy to come by, and traffic problems are not really problems at all.
Tonight is judgment night. We have moved beyond the small petty differences and arguments between the two contending sites, and there's nothing new you haven't heard between Downtown and Cawley. Most people have already made up their minds, and it's not for me to try to convince anyone which side is better at the 11th hour. To the folks in Belvidere area who oppose Cawley simply because they don't want it in their backyard, we're living in a civilized society where everyone does their part to contribute to the common good. Your unwillingness to sacrifice a little bit of your discomfort for the collective good of community is antisocial and un-American.
I have listened to the youngest voters in our community who will remember your vote and hold you accountable for your poor choice at Cawley with our votes. The culture, pride, and promise of Lowell is built on its diverse history, which is not represented by this 100% white council who would vote to move the school to an 85% white neighborhood. As much as we hate to admit it, there is a racial and gentrificational threat with the Cawley move.
The future of Lowell is on a knife's edge. You as counselors are ostensibly voting on one piece of the educational puzzle, a site. But the ripple effect of that choice is enormous because you can't rip the high school out of the heart of the city without fundamentally changing who we are as a city.
I'm going to ask each counselor to state their option that they're preferred. Mayor Kennedy.
Downtown option 3.
Council Leahy. Downtown option 3. Council Leary. Cawley option 5. Council Mercier.
Cawley option 5.
Council Milanazzo. Downtown option 3. Council Walk.
Cawley, option 5.
Council Samaras.
Down option 3.
Council Belanger.
Cawley, option 5.
Council Elliott.
Cawley, option 5.
I really felt that the city councilors were not listening to their constituents. I mean, that was one of the reasons why the high school, you know, the LHS downtown organized themselves, because they really, I remember attending the initial meetings, and they really didn't want to make a campaign out of it. But it was hard to compete with Cawley when they, you know, were taking out ads in the newspaper and buying airtime and giving out this false information. So this group of citizens felt like it was their duty to go out there and give out the correct information and be unbiased in it.
So the 5-4 vote for me was devastating. I mean, a lot of people blamed a certain counselor. I blamed all of them. You know, any one of those counselors could have changed that vote, but it reflected their values. It reflected where, you know, their ambitions are, and it kind of showed, like, you know, like how they really felt about about us.
I think the downtown group found that petition and the signatures they had were actually the first step in a process in getting a ballot referendum on the city's ballot in the November election. It was a non-binding referendum, but I think that was one of the first steps to the process. The bigger step was a need to collect more than 6,000 signatures of registered voters, which the pro-downtown group was able to accomplish.
The 5-4 vote, I think it should be the vote. I think it should be what the MSBA, you know, approves the funding for, because that's our government. That's how it works. We elected these people to, you know, to be the ones who knew all the details about projects and that research it and spent all these hours, you know, discussing it, and they made an informed decision. We did have the opportunity to put it on the ballot, and the city council, including the mayor, didn't want that to happen. So back before the 5-4 vote, he didn't want it on the ballot.
For them to get a ruling in June by a judge that says that Cawley is the best option, that yes, move forward and build there, and celebrate it because it's a win for the kids, and then a group from one area of Lowell to get the green light from the mayor to get a question on the ballot that, I don't know if you saw that question. It was the most ridiculous thing I had ever seen. And when I came home, I posted on the Cawley page, the Facebook page, I posted, what the hell was that question? There was no mention. It was basically, our school's falling apart. Do you support renovating it? That was it. That was the question.
You can't really go around saying that, you know, the question was unfair. You know, when we were getting signatures, everybody was told specifically that, you know, this question is to support the high school remaining downtown. You know, and this is what people sign for. You know, these are real life volunteers. There's day and night, rain, you know, cold weather. We stood out there. You know, I brought my daughter to teach her, you know, what it meant to get signatures and to work for what you really want and to be that voice of the people. You know, we had a lot of backlash. I mean, some guy overbearing came and yelled at me while I was trying to get signatures in front of my daughter. You know, those are the kind of backlash that we went through. My daughter was devastated.
In the aftermath of the council's 5-4 vote in favor of Cawley, the school committee, which favored downtown by, I believe, a 5-2 margin, felt that the authority to decide on what site would be used lay with the school committee, not the council. So the school committee engaged its own lawyer, who then sued the city council and the city manager. The judge ultimately decided that it was in fact the council did have the authority to make that decision.
The city of Lowell is getting sued by 13 individuals over the discrimination of the voting system that we have here in Lowell. Right now we have a 51% at-large voting system, which means one district or one group of people can dominate and win every time, every year, with the people they want by just the power of 51%, making it basically impossible for any other persons of interest, which is why it became a legal issue.
And how do you get people to actually go out and vote, make their voices heard, things like that? It's a challenge that the city has had for, since the beginning of time. There's one neighborhood that really has their interests well represented, and if they need to get out a vote, if they need to get out their side of things, they have a demonstrated ability to do that. The rest of the city really doesn't.
This side shows you the difference in Southeast Asian, Hispanic, African American, and white, basically half. This shows you the city council. This has no reflect of this at all, but it just shows you the lopsided situation that exists now at an at-large. So this council ended up being a little cocky, in my opinion, wanted to dismiss the 13 individuals and the lawsuit by fighting it. So therefore it left Lowell and ended up in federal court in Boston. The judge basically chewed the city of Lowell out and spit them out of his mouth. The city of Lowell did an article on the paper and it says KO, which we all know is knockout. The judge knocked out the bid for the city to fight the plaintiffs or to fight the whole process. So now it's going to progress and become a trial court in the system with the magistrate, and that will be in the favor of the plaintiffs for sure.
There's been many skirmishes in this battle about Lowell's identity, and I just see that this fight over the high school as being the latest one. I think that the federal lawsuit points to an issue, and that's who controls who's on the city council.
I can't wait to see the result of the referendum, to the vote on the ballot actually, because that will show what the residents of the city want. I think the referendum, the ballot question, the voting on the referendum can go either way, because in the preliminary only one neighborhood came out to vote. I believe in the general, I think the whole city, the rest of the city will come out to vote. And then we'll get a clear idea, a better picture of where the residents, where the people of Lowell really want the high school location to be.
My name is Sally Coulter. I've been living in Lowell about 2.5 years, and I'm holding signs today for Vesna Noon, who's a candidate for City Council, as well as for downtown Lowell councilors, people who are interested in keeping the Lowell High School downtown.
And I'm here because I fully support the decision of the City Council on June 20th to build a new school at Cawley Stadium, and I'm hoping that the voters today make a decision to back that choice as well.
Hi, my name is Noelle Cregan. I'm a parent to 3 school-age children. I'm also a candidate for a school committee, so this day is really important to me.
These are the city councilors who are supporting the downtown, and more than that, it's not just the school issue, because obviously city councilors have a lot of things on their plate. Joe Boyle has been a member of the planning board, and he's got planning experience. Karen Cirillo is a construction supervisor, so she has experience that would be useful in many ways in the city. So these are the people I'm supporting.
I mean, what more would a parent want to get involved in than something that impacts their own child? So we have a huge contingency of parents who fear that their child's not going to be able to go to Lowell High because of a renovation. But then you have a lot of people who fear that their neighborhood is in danger, or the history of Lowell is in danger. So they're just as passionate on the other side of this.
This building, if you pan back there, is a historic building. It's in good shape. And I think for the downtown area to have it vacant would, create a big vacuum in the downtown. We live downtown, so we'd like it to stay where it is. There are a lot of things that people can take advantage of, students, There's UMass Lowell and Middlesex Community College within walking distance. There are a number of social service agencies. There's agencies that help with language. So there's just a lot of benefit to being here, which would not be the case if they were out at Cawley, which is on the far end of the Tewksbury line.
It's an important 4 years. It really sets you up for what's next in life, which is becoming an adult. And I think we owe it to our kids to make sure they have the best experience possible. And I'm not saying one without trouble or strife or anything like that. Life has enough of that in store. Let's just give them a safe building and an uninterrupted education. That's it. I mean, that's the least we can do.
As a history teacher, I'm a firm believer that the majority does not make a decision for the minority. And if this doesn't personally impact you, I think that a lot of people are going to make the choice that they just think is the cheapest. When I look at major cases throughout history, you don't let a majority group choose for the minority, especially when they're not invested and they're not educated on the true factors that go into the decision. So you have a lot of people that I think are making a decision today. They feel passionate about it, but they're not making the decision based on all of the facts. And the only body that sat through those meetings, that got every single plan, that looked at every single cost and the pluses and the minuses and the educational objectives, were our city councilors. And we picked them as our leaders, so we don't question it. This is education, and I believe that education is a civil right, and I believe that they made the best educational decision for our kids, and we should honor that.
It goes back to the other leaders in the city that happen to be on the other side of this argument. I've been disappointed, but I feel that they have dug their heels in and really tried, some of them more than others, really tried to obstruct this decision and prevent it from moving forward. And I think because of that, where our city as a whole is left in this state of limbo and we're all fighting, just elbowing to try and get out of this hole. If these are the only two options, you know, keeping it here or moving it and building new, I don't see a situation where many people would back down unless there was something that really changed. If we don't get people out to vote, then we've lost, you know, we've lost today. You know, we haven't lost in the long run, but we've lost today, and I think today is a really big step. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what happens. I'm hopeful.
I don't think the city understands what the fallout will be. I've heard from a lot of teachers. I've spoken to people that already have their houses up for sale because their kids are nearing high school age and they won't send them there during construction.
We're looking at Catholic schools, private schools, to see what our options are. And we're also considering putting the house on the market and moving, so we'll see.
Issues right now when it comes to politics has divided people. It's come to a point where, you know, people feel like they're not being heard. And it's blown up so big because that's what happened. I felt like a lot of people felt they weren't being heard.
And the week after the election, you know, I kind of took it easy and, just kind of tried to get my thoughts together. And you know, I was very disappointed, a little bit angry, you know, but you have to move on and try to figure out what's going on next. The city of Lowell lost. As far as I'm concerned. The downtown people couldn't give up their slate of candidates. And if they told you, and they were honest, they know that those candidates are better people, but they still couldn't bring themselves to vote for them because they did not want to chance it. They wanted a pro-downtown city council and a pro-downtown school committee. Yeah. As far as moving forward, you know, I'd like to stand here and tell you that, yeah, everybody's going to come together. It's not going to happen. This is going to be on for a long time about the history of Lowell and whatever happened here. And I feel that important about this high school that you know, this is going to change the city and the education for generations.
Most of the people that want Cawley in that area are wealthy enough to send their kids to a private school. They can. There's nothing wrong with that. What about the people that can't do that? Nobody has answers. Nobody. It's not like, you know, well, when they get in there, they'll fix it. everybody's scratching their heads. Both sides are going. And there's no way to pay for it. They all say, oh, well, we have no way to pay for this. Well, why are we submitting, you know, but yet something has to be done. High school cannot stand the way it is. It is probably next year won't pass inspection.
Compromising is always there. You know, the location has been chosen. Okay, now what? We're going to start from scratch. You know, we're going to work with what we have and improve it. You know, we're going to work together because it's a high school meant for everybody in Lowell. You know, I'm sorry that the location isn't exactly what a few of you wanted, but, you know, now we have to move on. And I really feel like, you know, the people that wanted us to get past the results when it was for Cawley, now, you know, they have the chance to prove themselves that they're a better person and they're going to get past these decisions and how they feel and to move forward along with us.
I think Lowell has a track record of continuing to move forward, even though things look bad or they don't look like they're going the way you want them to. You don't give up, you don't move away, you don't throw in the towel, you keep advocating your position, being reasonable, and things usually work out. In 1916, there was a major fight in the city, and that major fight was about whether or not to take privately owned property on Kirk Street by eminent domain so that they could expand Lowell High School. But the properties were all owned by individuals, by businesses, by private clubs, and they didn't want their property to be taken. But the city ended up taking it. And besides the fight about the eminent domain, there was a fight about the plans for the school, about which contractor was going to get to do the construction, which architect was going to be used. And so even though they're from exactly 100 years ago, they really echo the same kind of issues that are confronting the city now. So I don't think this is a particular turning point. I think it's just another episode in a kind of a continuum of life in the city.
The compromise between the rich and wealthy in Belvidere and then the just right in downtown, Highlands, Acres, projects, all that. They just don't see a compromise anytime soon because we're all looking right now, we're all being selfish. And until we realize not what's best for you, but what's best for the kids itself, there won't be no compromise.